I'm gonna steal my friend's record. The Gritstone Trail is about 55 kilometers and involves roughly 1,800 meters, give or take a bit, of elevation gain. At the moment, the mixed gender FKT, or fastest known time for this trail, is held by two of my friends, Harriet and Al. Now, they are the only people on the leaderboard, but we're still going to go ahead and try and beat them anyway. The record we're specifically going after is the mixed gender unsupported FKT. This means we basically have to be self-sufficient on the route, but self-sufficient in that it's all what we have on our own backs. So we can't use any shops, we can't use drop bags placed ahead of time, we can't have people handing stuff to us on the route. The only thing we're allowed to do is like get water from, say, streams, or in the case of the Gritstone Trail, there is a tap in a field somewhere that I think is eligible to be used, and any public toilets en route, you can fill up water at those places. In this case, because there aren't really a lot of streams en route, and obviously just being dehydrated for the sake of a record isn't very safe, so using things like public toilets is allowed in these instances. So what's the plan? If you've done an ultramarathon before, you'll know that they generally don't go to plan. However, there is no harm in having a plan. The trick is just to make that plan flexible enough so that when random stuff happens that threatens to derail everything, the plan is flexible enough that the overall shape of it can still be maintained even in the face of adversity and unexpected changes. It is also important that the plan plays into the individual strengths of the people you're working with. In our case, my teammate Andy, who's also a personal trainer who happens to work out the same gym as me, and also has this weird affliction where he wants to run really long distances for fun, is going to be doing this with me. Now, Andy is faster than me. However, my prep has been a lot better than his. So this effectively means we're going to kind of very much treat this as a run of two halves. In the first half, Andy is going to take a bit of my water, maybe like a litre of it, so that I can try and run a bit faster, basically. And we can try and be a little bit more evenly matched in our pace. However, I've had way more eating practice than he has, and I've just done more running over the last few weeks than Andy has. So the chances are, as we get into the second half, I will be totally hopped up on carbs, because I'll be smashing it every 20 to 30 minutes. My legs will probably be in a better state because I've just done more volume over the last several weeks, few months, than Andy's been able to. So when we get into the second half, if we do run into instances where Andy's just feeling a bit wrecked and I've still got loads of energy, then obviously I will take some of the load off him so that he can run a bit easier. The route itself is pretty runnable. It's a lot of tracks and road sections involved. There are bits of more traily sections, but it's very runnable. So we are going to be running most of it, which sounds silly, but often when you're doing an ultramarathon, you are walking quite a lot of it. And this is probably not going to be the case with this one. We are going to be running basically all of the 55 kilometers. I don't think there are going to be many hiking segments at all unless things get a bit desperate. The majority of the elevation gain is in the first half of the route, so that will be the hardest bit. At the moment, the weather on the day is promising to get up to 21 degrees by midday. So we are going to try and start as early as we can. We're going to try and start about 7 AM so that we can get the hardest bit of the route done and out the way before it gets too hot. The second half of the route also has more segments that are along like more canal paths and under trees and shaded. So if we can get to the second half before the weather heats up and be in those more shaded sections before the weather heats up, then that will help as well. We are going to just carry 2 litres of water each from the start, or Andy will be carrying a bit of mine at the start. So we're going to try and make sure we've got 2 litres each available, and I'm going to take some Coke and stuff so I can just try and keep my carbs up, help keep my carbs up through the route. So we are just going to try and stay as hydrated as possible and make use of the couple of places we'll be able to pick up water on the way. I have a reasonably good idea of what carb combinations work for me at this stage, so I will be starting off with flapjack, Kendall mint cake and ginger energy chews. So the flapjack is there. I don't really like eating it necessarily, but it's historically been really good for just getting some kind of like slower burning carbs in me towards the beginning of a route. So if I can get some flapjack down in the first hour, get another one down in the second hour, and then just kind of pair that up with the Kendal mint cake and the ginger chews, those two other items will kind of like help break up the flavor palette a little bit, and the ginger will help settle my stomach. So basically, if I can do that for the first couple of hours, that sets me up really well to then just keep taking on other carbs as the race goes on, or in this case, not a race, but route goes on. Once we're past the first couple of hours, we then moved into using gels. So I'll be using a gel, a Kendal mint cake, and Coke for the next couple of hours. Basically, I'm going to try and overcarb for the first 2 hours and then get to a more normal level of carbs for the next couple, and then after that it'll just kind of be seeing what happens. So I've got gels for the like last couple of hours and more Kendal mint cake, but I've also got really salty things because my flavor profile just palette is going to be really worn out by that point. So I have got some like gluten chew things from the Asian supermarket that I really like using as I get a bit later in a race, because sometimes at that point my mouth just doesn't really want sweet stuff anymore and it wants something that tastes really different. So those gluten sticks are just absolutely loaded with MSG and they work really well for just kind of like cutting through and helping me then be able to eat more stuff. And I will have a couple of protein bars in my bag just as kind of like a bit of an emergency thing if it's going to take us longer than we anticipated, and I just need some more food of some kind. I'll just have a couple of protein bars in my bag to fill that requirement if it is taking us longer than we planned. One thing we are going to have to be a little bit careful about is I was ill on Sunday. I had a really bad fever overnight, but it was just overnight. Like my body just blasted through it. But Monday I felt really exhausted. I'm filming this on Tuesday. I have been for a very short run today and that felt okay. My heart rate was a bit wacky, so obviously still recovering from the fever, I think. I will be all right by Sunday, so I'm just trying to take it easy for the rest of the week and not do crazy amount of running. I wasn't planning on doing much anyway, but like I was going to race the trunks last night and I decided not to, obviously, because I probably would have passed out halfway around. So this week hasn't gone according to plan, but we often end up with some kind of illness in the taper anyway, so this wasn't entirely unexpected. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. I guess it's just good that it's happened several days before and not a couple of days before. Andy's also been a bit ill. He's got a young kid, so unfortunately occasionally gets illnesses from the baby. So he's also been a bit ill and also been a bit low on energy. So we'll see. Well, we'll both be all right, but we'll just have to see exactly how our energy levels are on the day as to whether we're going to push at the pace we'd initially planned. Navigating should be pretty straightforward. There's a lot of points on the route where there's just like a big old marker that just says Gritstone Trail on it, that points you in the right direction. And it is a lot of like, as I said, tracks, fairly obvious trails, road sections. So it's not going to be difficult nav, and it is, sorry, Harriet and Al, quite a soft record to go after. So we're not too worried about whether we will or won't get it. This was more I guess just a bit of friendly rivalry being generated, and then I don't know whether Harriet and Al are gonna maybe try and retake it at some point in the future. That would be fun if that's the case, but I'm also just kind of hoping if I can do stuff like this a little bit more often, it might generate, I don't know, a little bit more interest in people kind of doing some of these FKTs for the fun of it. Not all FKTs are created equal. Some of them are a lot harder than others. I don't think this is going to be an especially difficult one, but it'll be a good day out and a good kind of test of my training and how my understanding of my race nutrition has developed. But there are a lot of FKTs sort of in the more local-ish area that I feel like maybe don't get a lot or enough love. So yeah, I'll probably, if this goes well, I'll probably do more stuff like this, because it might be fun to just kind of go after FKTs that don't have a lot of names on the leaderboards, or some that don't have any names on the leaderboards. But anyway, that's our general plan for trying to steal my mate's record off them. I'm looking forward to it, if the remainder of this fever recovery can get a move on. And training's gone really well, so it should be fine, but it is an ultramarathon, and ultramarathons don't really like to play by a rule book. Regardless, it'll be a solid day out, and I'm just looking forward to testing myself, trying to push myself in a non-race environment. I think that will be really, really interesting. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.